Oh, that's a good looking book.
We both have the book.
What?
Yeah, but
An
Liz
actual
actually
book,
read
not
it.
a Kindle.
Liz actually read it though, Chris.
Chris read it too, didn't you, Chris?
You know, I read it like 2 months ago. I hope I don't like forget the key components.
You live it every day. You can't forget.
Yeah.
Hi,
Bob.
My gosh.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to give it a few more minutes. There are a bunch of other people. I mean, I can add them as we go along, but
just let everybody in. That's a part.
Yeah, I know. Oh, wait, there are more people waiting. Maybe they are actually all here and I just haven't admitted them all. Rick has now joined us. And Gwen.
Hey, Rick. Hi, Leah.
Rick.
Hey, Chris.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
It's been a while. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Are you in Boston?
Not only am I in Boston, I'm in Boston reading your book.
Wow.
Although your name, sorry, wasn't prominently enough. I am. Boston's the only non-cold part of the country right now.
We got another one holding up on the side there.
Hi, Rick. I'm Liz.
Oh, Liz,
Hi, Liz.
Rick, this is Liz.
Rick, Liz is my favorite podcast interviewer.
Well, that's
You
awesome.
are a natural, Liz.
I don't even have a podcast. It's like this little video series I started doing, but Jason and I had such a blast. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I want to see that or hear that.
It'll be live soon. So
Okay, good. Why did you guys just get done doing that?
No, we did it a couple months ago.
Okay.
I work at Psychometrics, and I just decided, and I came from another company that does software for Amazon sellers, and so I've got a big network, and I said, you know, it would be fun to interview like my favorite people, and then I met Jason, and I was like, he's automatically like one of my favorite people. So
Right.
so I've done about 14 of them so far, and none of them are live yet. So we'll be rolling them out slowly, but it's they're just short little like 25-minute videos about like what's your journey, not so much like what's your service offering. And then I ask a couple of fun questions at the end, like what's your favorite word? Or I borrow from James Lipton's Inside the Actor Studio.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. I remember
Right.
James Lipton. Yeah.
So
Hi,
should we do
Jody.
some quick intros?
Hi,
How do you want to
Gwen.
start?
Well, so what, Chris, why don't you introduce? I mean, I guess everybody knows. Does everybody know Chris? If you don't know Chris,
I know
raise your
Chris.
hand.
We have
I know
we have a
Chris.
mixture of new and regulars
And
from
Chris, you
the.
need to keep letting people in if they're in the waiting
Yeah,
room.
I don't. I've got the column on the right, and I don't see anyone queued up and waiting,
Okay.
as far as I can tell. But I've let all these people in so far, so I think I'm getting the hang of it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I made Chris the host because I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and there's an ice storm outside, and Richmond
Oh.
isn't good at ice, so I
Right.
could
Oh.
lose power at
Yeah,
any
but-
moment.
Liz, I have
Oh,
news for
gosh.
you. There's an ice storm everywhere in the country right now.
Yeah.
Not here, not in
Not
LA,
here.
baby.
Not here.
It's
Yeah.
70 and sunny outside.
I was just on a call with some people from Texas and they're dying down
Oh
there.
God.
Mm.
How did they do the call?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever the place where I was calling, they had electricity, but
Okay.
they're in bad trouble
That
because they
sounds-
have nothing to do. They're not used to getting
Right.
snow and cold. So
Right. That's too bad.
mm.
But we're glad you could all join us. Jason and I have been talking about this for a couple months. Liz and I have been talking about it, but quick introductions. Liz is at Psychometrics, as is Andy. Psychometrics, of course, for those that have been coming to this meetup for years, used to host the meetup in their offices in the Seaport, and maybe someday will again.
Let's hope the world opens back up. We all get vaccinated
Yeah.
and we can start meeting
Someday.
in person again.
Someday soon. In the meantime, doing the virtual, did one last summer. I wanted to do some in Q4, and that of course was a terrible idea because Q4 was crazier than ever. So now it's Q1, we're back into it. And what we wanted to, first of all, we've got Rick Cesari and Jason Boyce, who both have decades and decades upon decades of experience and wonderful.
Rick, I think you just called us old.
I know.
Polite way
I
of
didn't
saying
mean to say that particular way, but they wrote the Amazon Jungle. Liz and I have read it. Lots of good seller experiences in there, but also just kind of straight talk, which I adore, about the Amazon marketplace experience. And I don't know, what were Liz, you read it around the time that I read the book, but the main takeaway I had was that you have to be fearless to even begin this endeavor. And for the Jason side and for the Rick side, I guess my main thing was video marketing has obviously changed over the years, but what are the unique Amazon, I don't know, maybe this can be the first question. What do people who are well-versed in A+ content and video marketing now need to do to adapt in the sort of survive or die universe that is the Amazon marketplace?
Great.
Should we answer that?
Maybe we can do the second part first with Rick.
Okay.
Do you want
Well,
to?
the good news is we got the guy here, Chris, who literally wrote the book on video and specifically making video to sell. Rick, I'm going to steal some of your thunder here. So here's some video that Rick has created. You might have heard of the George Foreman grill,
Right.
OxyClean, Billy Bean, Rick discovered, Sonicare. Sorry, Billy Bean. That's the baseball guy. Sorry, Billy Mays. Let's see, Sonicare, GoPro. Who am I forgetting, Rick?
GoPro is the one I was going to mention for sure.
Yeah, GoPro, and
Eagle
there's
One.
a certain and there's a certain psychology and elements that are needed in order to create any person with a camera can make a video, but Rick knows the science and the emotion behind it, and he's just a master in
Telling a story.
telling a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really awesome that Amazon is opening up now to more and more video, because the people that can utilize that as a tool will have such an advantage over their competitors. So
Yeah, I mean, A+ has been around how many years now?
Well, it was at Vendor Central before it even came over to Seller Central.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
decade maybe.
Yeah, several years. I mean, do people come to you, Rick, to talk about not just telling their story, but do they come to you with Amazon specific questions too at this point? Like, how much do you know about video on Amazon? Do they start the conversation that way ever?
no, not really. Most of them are coming just to get more video content, and then I always ask, are you on Amazon? Surprisingly, there's still some people that aren't, and then if they are, then talk about how we can shoot some video that obviously they can use on their e-commerce site, but then it can be repurposed for Amazon and repurposed for social media. So it's really a great time right now for video, because of all the repurposing you can do with just one shoot, and you can get a lot of mileage out of it. So
Nice.
and
And an interesting thing, if I could just add one thing, Rick, I send clients to Rick too. And we do some video for clients specifically for Amazon. But here's what's great about having someone like Rick do your video, right? Someone who knows this game, is Amazon and Facebook and Google are a great place to test multiple different versions of video, and you can find out what works the best. And then once you figure out the video that works the best, Rick can then take that and put you on television and drive traffic to your brand, to your own e-commerce store. And of course, anything that shows up on television always drives traffic to Amazon on its own. But it's a much less expensive way, I imagine, Rick, than what you did, the first few times with George Foreman, right?
yeah, it was initially back, that was always a crapshoot to some extent, because you'd have to spend a ton of money before you could test it and figure out what actually worked. And now when you mention those other platforms, it's so much easier to test things very inexpensively and find out what works and what doesn't work before spending a huge amount of money. And it used to be, TV was like the first place you could go there to launch products. Now it's just totally flip-flopped, and I don't even talk to people about TV unless they're already doing well on paid social platforms and Amazon and things like that. And if you are, then if you layer in some TV, it can really take your company to the next level. And Jason and I are working with a couple clients right now that are kind of in that phase, that we're really looking forward to the results.
Well, you used to have to do like focus groups, right? You had to hire one of those marketing companies and do focus groups, and
yeah, Jason and I have a different
do that in Facebook like this.
Yeah, Jason and I have a different approach to focus groups. We
Focus groups suck.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, in the old, that was the way people approached it, right? You had to do a whole study.
a lot of ad agencies did, Chris.
Ad
But
agencies, yeah.
one thing that I would like to do, and Jason does this now too, is I would find out if a company has customers, they have a database, and I would reach out to their database and line up 15 or 20 customers, bring a video camera in, ask these people, 10, 15 questions, and you'd get feedback. So a couple things would happen. You'd have great video testimonials or footage for video testimonials, but you'd also start to see a lot of trends or feedback, the things that people liked, what they didn't like. And so instead of doing focus groups, we just kind of went straight to the customers. And it was like a focus group, but we were filming testimonials at the same time. So we were actually creating footage and stuff. So that's a great way that I've always done it. That's been very successful.
And Rick and I were sitting in the Issaquah coffee house having a cup of coffee when he told me this, and I was like, this is what we do on Amazon. We read all the bad reviews from all of our competitors, and we read all the bad reviews from our shoppers, people who have paid real money, who are vested in the product, and listening to what they have to say. And we don't just complain and whine and be like, oh, how can they talk bad about my ugly baby? Don't call my baby ugly. But you take that information and you make a better product. Or I'll give you another example. We put this in the book. I had this detractable table tennis net, and we designed this thing, and they're everywhere now, but we designed this thing for folks that maybe lived in an apartment who had a small dining room table, so they would attach this net to their dining room table and turn it into, so that was the main purpose of the product. So I'm reading reviews, and it's not just the negative reviews, but the good reviews. And there were like 3 to 5 positive 5-star reviews that came in and said, we took this on our trip. We took this, we traveled, on our summer vacation, or we took it, to Orlando, to Disney World or whatever, and we used it in between. And I was like, this is a travel set. And so we used that information, and we went in and we updated the listing. And not only was this a set that could be used in, your apartment, but now it was a travel set, and it was a portable set. It came with a great bag, and you could take it with you. And that thing became like a best-selling item. And so this is one of the things that, I just love about Rick. There's all these stories that we have back and forth, my experience in Amazon and his experience in TV and TV marketing, where there's these themes that pop up. And forget about the content, forget Amazon, forget TV, but they hold true. And it's because, and Rick, you can say this better than I can, it's because human nature hasn't changed in a millennium.
I would say human nature hasn't changed, just a delivery platform. So what's worked, I always say this, what's worked on radio, what's worked on TV, if you hit the right hot buttons or persuasion tactics or whatever you want to call them, the same things will work on Amazon, and they'll work on your e-commerce website. When I first met Jason, I think it was probably like 3 years ago now, or 3.5 years ago.
We were talking like 5 years.
We were talking about some of his Amazon listings, and I'm looking at them and I go, how come you don't have any people in your ads? And he was selling, what was it, was it a table tennis game or
ping pong table,
and
full size.
I said, and also he was showing was a table, and I said, why don't you show a nice family having fun over the table? And he did that one change, and the conversions went like crazy.
Yeah, triple-digit growth. But what he doesn't tell you is, I'm like, oh yeah, Rick, I got a video, and I have my laptop and I show it to him and I play the video, and it's an assembly video, and Rick sort of cracks a smile and he goes, wow, that looks like work.
Well,
and that's all he said. But I was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, it's not that that's a bad video. An assembly video is not bad. Why don't you send that video to them after they make your purchase? Why don't you show them a happy family smiling, playing a game, coming together, and see if that'll help your conversion rate? And it was like magic.
I was just about to bring that up. See, that was my proof that I read the book. You took it from me.
Sorry.
Well, no, the images of a family enjoying it, you said it was kind of technical. Your original images or presentation of the content was kind of, this is how to do it, this is how to build it, how to use it, which wasn't as fun or exciting or appealing or attractive to a potential buyer. Once
it was awful. It looked like a factory spec sheet.
Right.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, another product which we talk about in the book, which is a client of Jason's, is the coffee maker. And we go through some of the listings, and just to show you, one of the shots doesn't even have the product in there. It's just on the listing, it's just a woman enjoying a delicious cup of coffee. And you just, there's an emotional appeal to that, because you think about when you wake up in the morning and you're tired and you want to drink a cup of coffee, didn't even show the product, just a woman drinking coffee, and it's really effective. And then the other part of that is, and something we kind of stole from TV marketing, is using a lot of infographics on the listings and calling out the benefits, as opposed to just having a simple image. And that's something that you see more of now, but a few years ago you didn't see very much of that.
Yeah. And Jason, by the way, was a former top 200 seller. Maybe we could talk about your seller background for a bit.
Yeah,
Sure.
Since we're here to talk about Amazon sellers. I mean, top 200 seller, you were selling for, I remember you had stories from 2003, 2004 in the book. So is that 14 years total, 16 years total, and then you switched
17
to agency,
as a seller. Yep.
Agency management of brands, obviously now, but give us some.
This is great. I mean, we were selling direct to consumer through our own website. My brother, who was a junior in high school, is like a dev wizard. So he developed our first database driven website, and we had connected with this company called Overture, who had a small office in Pasadena, and they had invented pay-per-click advertising. You guys are saying, no, they didn't. Google invented it. But no, these little guys in Pasadena had invented pay-per-click advertising. Yahoo later bought them, and there was this huge lawsuit in the 90s between Google and Yahoo. Yahoo won, and Google had to license this technology that our friends in Pasadena had. So we were using this newfound PPC technology to put our basketball hoops on all of the different websites like Alta Vista, and insert weird search engine from the 90s.
Alta Vista.
Ask Jeeves.
Excite.
Ask Jeeves. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. We should play. We should play a drinking game with this.
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, and then we had all these. We were all over the first page of search results. So someone at Amazon in 2003 called me and said, "We want you to sell your hoops on Amazon." And I was so confused. I was like, "What? You guys sell books. I just bought a VHS tape from you. What do you mean you sell basketball hoops, right?" And so I talked it over with my brothers, and we're like, why not? Everybody knows who Amazon is. Nobody knows who Super Duper Hoops is. Let's sell our products on there. And so that was like our first iteration, and everything was CSV file. Of course, I think it's funny, 20 years later, we're still doing flat files.
Flat files.
Seems problematic, but another story for another time. And so I was a drop shipper. We didn't even carry inventory. Amazon came in one day, attached to all our listings, and sold it for 20% less than we could buy it. So we lost the drop ship game. And then we started to work with direct brands and said, look, Spalding, you like us, we like you. Why don't you change Happy to Glad on this product? And we think it'll be a big seller on Amazon, but only give us the UPC. So we call those exclusives. And so we built up this sizable exclusives business. And then Amazon, I feel like I'm going to scare some of your folks away here. And then Amazon.
Oh, we have some scary stuff coming. There's always a little bit of scary in any meetup where you talk about like seller performance or listing suspensions. Any regulars to the meetup, they've already like kind of baked into their brain a little bit of scary into any.
And what's your favorite quote from the book, Jason? Amazon's not your friend.
Not your friend. I have other quotes that we talk
I have
about
a nicer
offline,
way of
Rick.
saying it.
Yeah, that's the non-Marine version of how I say it. Yeah.
Jason's also an ex-Marine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's another life altogether.
Just before you became a seller, right?
It was a lot easier than being a seller, I'll tell you that.
Right.
And and so that Amazon came in and kneecapped us with the exclusives because they started threatening the brand, sell us Dazity's stuff or else. And then we developed our own private label, not because it was my intention to do that, but because we didn't have a choice. It was the only way we were going to survive. And then that business went gangbusters right up until the point of exiting in 18. And
okay, so 18 was when you
Yeah.
started the transition to, I'm going to educate, I'm going to teach, I'm going to take, I assume back even then you were kind of looking at small brands and wanting to grow them into something bigger.
Yeah.
Because they have a dream, they have an idea, they have a product, but they need the wisdom and the know-how and the knowledge. So
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I made literally every single mistake you can make on Amazon and learn from it. And I thought, I just got a lot of meaning. We would go to the Prosper Show, Chris, and I would either be on a panel or I'd do a talk, and sellers would come up and ask these great questions. And it was just so meaningful for me to be able to have the answers. right? Because I screwed up years
Mm.
ago and learned from it. And I just realized when we finally said goodbye to the previous business that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I question myself often when Amazon throws curveballs, but I do enjoy it.
But the thing is, nobody could hit those curveballs if you weren't there to back them up and to tell them that you brought somebody through that nightmare before, you know?
That's right. That's right. One of my favorite stories, Liz, I think I told you this one. What's that story? The guy's in a hole, stuck in a hole, and he can't get out. A priest walks by, and the guy says, "Help me out of the hole." The priest pulls out a notepad and writes a prayer on it and drops it down. And the guy's like, "Well, that doesn't help me." And then a doctor walks by, and the guy goes, "Let me out of the hole." And the doctor pulls out his prescription pad and goes, "Here's a prescription. Take that to the store." And he's like, "What good is that? I can't get out of this hole." And then his best friend walks by, and he looks down in the hole, and the guy goes, "I'm stuck," and his friend jumps in the hole with him, right? And then he looks at his friend and says, "What are you doing? You're in the hole. We're both stuck." And the friend says, "Yeah, I know, but I've been in this hole before, and I know the way out." And so that's sort of the story that we tell to clients whenever they run into these problems. And it's just, it's much more meaningful and much more fun than managing my own inventory.
Yeah, well, especially with IPI limits being what they are.
Duh, that's right.
Sore subject, I know.
There are smart ways to handle that. And if you need help with that, you can ask me, because I have talked about that ad nauseum.
Excellent.
We don't even need to ask you guys questions. You guys just take off
we just keep going.
Just keep going. This is easy.
We had a fun call on Friday. We have a little group. I don't even know how we got together, but James Thompson, Bernie Thompson, Jerry,
Jerry Cavish.
Cavish, and then Jason and I. So we have every year we do a salmon fishing trip in Puget Sound, and we hadn't, because of COVID and everything, we hadn't gotten together for a while. So we had a nice call on Friday. We probably talked for 2 hours just about everybody's war stories, about what was happening with their businesses, and about James talked a lot about the all the aggregators, out there and in the business. So it's really great conversation.
Yeah, those aggregators are a great story for sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, these valuations are going to keep growing. There's more money on the sideline now than there are great sellers like you to buy. Yeah. So keep growing your business. Build that EBITDA and get, I think, 6 to 10 times EBITDA in a couple of years.
Yeah, I've never seen anything.
It's like IPOs. The only comparable, the IPO friend, it's like a Silicon
But that was
Valley
so much
IPO.
harder to do an IPO, compared to this. I mean, if you just have a good, successful business and you get a couple of these guys interested in you, like Jason said, the valuations are just going through the roof.
Yeah. We have a question. Jody, do you want to unmute yourself and ask it? Because you have a voice here.
Yeah, I was wondering, he kept saying Ebitda. Is that enhanced brand? What does Ebitda stand for?
Oh, no. Ebitda is an accounting term, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Yeah.
So it's the bottom line.
Yeah, and it's the way people, when they're buying a business, they'll look at that metric, and they'll pay like 3 times or 5 times or whatever. What that bottom line is. And there's things you can do to your business, not to go way down a rabbit hole here, to increase that, so that you can get a better return for the business that the aggregator's looking at.
And if you say
aggregators, I was just going to jump in, and I mean, this is a very hot topic now, because I always know when I start hearing from these guys in a rush that everyone's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Aggregators are out there looking for valuable businesses on Amazon to buy. And it's a hot topic now because I think there are multiple competing ones. That's the interesting part to me. I used to just hear about one. Now I'm hearing from several. We're actually going to do a podcast on this in the near future. And we can also, we can do, kind of a meetup on it as well. But I'm hearing from aggregators who are looking, like you said, they're interested in buying businesses.
And by aggregator, you mean companies that are interested in buying Amazon businesses?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, they've raised literally if you took the total, it's easily several $billions to purchase Amazon. And I don't know how many there are now. I know at least a half a dozen, but I'm sure there's more than that out there right now.
At last count, someone told me there are 40 that have
Oh, really?
announced.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they're
40,
growing.
wow.
Yeah.
Is there a like a minimum they want to see in sales? I know sales could mean nothing because you could be in debt, but is there like, oh, it has to be 6-figure or what have you? You guys,
The sweet
if
spot
it's-
is middle
yes.
6 figures all the way up to, 10 million a year. Ironically, we've got a friend who's in the $50 million range, and he's not a good candidate. He's almost too big.
Yeah.
Each of these guys have raised about $100 million each or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Thrasio's the biggest. They've raised $1 billion on their own plus. And their idea is to go out and find really smart brands, private label brands mostly. There's a couple of them out there that will buy a reseller, but under very strict circumstances. So if you've built a solid brand, you got a great listing, you got a lot of reviews, your Ebitda is $50,000 to $150,000 after you add back all your personal expenses that won't be there when they buy you. You multiply that by 3 to 10, depending on your growth rate, and you can walk away with a very nice check and take a year off and recover from this Amazon game.
Take a vacation.
Sure.
I've heard from some that won't do, they want to see at least 7x possible to 10x. Otherwise they won't buy. How they get the numbers crunched to get to that and project varies, I'm sure, between the aggregators, but
yeah,
that's a big topic this year.
I was actually talking to a guy recently who created it's a kind of an overall dashboard. It's called Eva. And he was talking about some guys in like on the West Coast that are actually looking for resellers, like really, really good resellers. That's actually what they're targeting, because that's and the investors that are looking for them are actually getting them to sign up for his tool because it's super cheap. It's super inexpensive. It's not cheap.
That's better, Liz.
He took months and months to develop it. He said, if you had told me how long it would have taken to develop the software, I probably wouldn't have done it, because he did it himself. But he said that they're sending them through his system so that they can shore up their profitability, make sure their inventory is where it needs to be, so that they're in a good, and then they're just snapping them up one by one by one by one. He said they're sending them so fast and then getting them through the system. So it's everything. It's not just brands. It's not just private label. People are actually buying resellers too.
That's a great point, Liz. It's funny. There's 2 buckets of Amazon. Well, it's really 3 if you include the RAs, the retail arbitragers. But if you're a seller and you're a reseller, it's either one or the other. You very rarely run across a seller that does both well, and it's just a different sort of mindset. I got a friend who's a shoe dog, and he's been in the reseller game and does 5 to 10 million a year on Amazon.
Shoes are
and just
hard
crushes
too.
He's awesome. He knows he knows the game, and I've been trying to convince him for years to create his own private label. I've had one-on-one conversations with him, showing him how to do it. He's just not in it.
He's making too much until he's forced to do it. He's probably not going to have. I mean, I've had people tell me that.
Yeah,
I know some of the most successful people that are still doing retail arbitrage, and they never want to do anything else, because that they love the hunt. They love.
Right. The hunt. Yeah. Right.
A few years ago, I'm kind of a newer seller, but I remember a few years ago, I started in retail arbitrage, and it felt like it was all over YouTube. Like, oh, you can make this, you can do that. And I felt like it just died, and they were really pushing private label. Is that like Amazon pushing influencers and pushing people to put that agenda out there? Because when you say retail arbitrage, I'm sort of surprised. I didn't think many people were doing that anymore.
Fewer people are doing it.
Brands don't want people selling their products. So as they clamp down on it, there's less and less opportunity for retail arbitrage.
That's what I mean. I'm wondering, because I know like to sell Lego, to sell Nike, all those things are dead now. I don't know what they're selling. Curious.
Oh, they're not. Nike's not dead. And in fact, these shoe dogs that I know of, the minute Nike announced that they were no longer going to sell on Amazon, they got phone calls from Amazon saying, hey, remember that Nike business we shut you down on a couple of years ago? What do you say you come on back? So, so that's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah, there's 60,000 listings of Nike shoes, and they're all bad listings, and probably half of them are counterfeit. Nike made a mistake It's nice when you have a top 10 e-commerce website like Nike.com, but I think that they've seeded the ground and they should have stayed there and cleaned up their own brand. Their mistake was thinking that Amazon would do it for them, even though Amazon told them. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. They believed Amazon, which Chris and I would know is not a good thing to do. But
Take
yeah,
it with
that
a
Nike,
grain of salt.
right? That Nike
Yeah.
story is a fascinating one, and it's not over.
Yeah. I mean, people still do this stuff, but I think there's a lot of consolidation and there's very large retail arbitrage sellers, not as many smaller ones. And Amazon's just making reselling in general more difficult. There are IP claims, trademark infringement claims, counterfeit reports. Like Gwen was saying a minute ago, I mean, brands just do what they use, the tools and the weapons they have that Amazon gives them to knock people off these listings. So that's one reason why I end up telling people to explore private label, even if they've never done it or they're afraid of it. But even earlier today, Jason and I were saying it's not a panacea to just say, I like selling my own stuff. I'm going to just make it cheap and sell it at a good margin on Amazon. I mean, it used to be that way, right? But now you have to be survival of the fittest a little bit. You have to go in with your eyes open, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
oh, go ahead, Jason.
Well, I was just going to follow up on what Chris was saying.
Yeah.
I used to go to China and I would only talk price. What can you do to get me to this price? Because I wanted to match the lowest price. You can't do that anymore, right? And then, once I started to notice the flood of China sellers coming in and cutting out the U.S. middle people, my conversations with my factories changed. What can you add in here to add more value so that I can raise the price, so that I can differentiate my product, so that I can be different? Rick's got a great saying, difference better than better. And those sort of conversations in a very short period of time changed. And it made all the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have your own private label, you're offering a value proposition that's different, that looks different, that's great, that's well reviewed, you get on that first page of search results, you can command a premium and not see a decrease in your quantity sold. And that's the game. That's in my opinion. Look, I love the RA folks. I was a drop shipper. In my opinion, that's the last game. Those are going to be the last folks standing on Amazon to some degree because of these things you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah.
Amazon needs to protect brands. They can't not protect brands and allow the RAs to do what they do.
And I had a follow-up question, but I didn't want to cut you off, Rick. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we spend a little bit of time in the book talking about the manufacturing process and differentiating your products so that you can stand out from the crowd. So that's one of the good things about the approach that Jason took in the book on that part of it. Based on
Thank you, Rick. That
When
part
he
is
says
short
the
and
book,
sweet.
He means the Amazon jungle, by the way, for everyone at home.
Shameless plug. Thank you, Chris.
And the book's also over Jason's shoulder there on his video.
Well, actually, we'll answer the question and we have a good book story for you, but go ahead.
No, I just had one follow-up question, which is, have we gotten to the point where you have to tell people, develop a good product and plan to only sell it for 1.5 years or 2 years and have one in the wings waiting, or develop a second product so that you can give up on the first one when the story's over and move on? Like, are you already having those conversations instead of the normal conversation you'd have with a new small brand, which is, we have to launch your product, we have to get it out there, we have to get some good social media on it? Because is it getting so competitive that you have to be like, and then we're going to talk about the other product you're going to sell in 3 years if everything works out? Do you have to have those conversations now when they're just starting? Yeah.
A couple of things that I sort of to unpack there, I think, Chris, and we were talking about this with a mutual potential client. I think there's certain categories where I no longer think that starting on Amazon is your best bet. Supplements, maybe lotions, cosmetics, beauty, sort of accessory type of products, because it's so much cheaper and better and more effective for the brand to go out and find these low-level influencers and grow your brand, start an Instagram brand, build your name, drive traffic to your Shopify site, pay an influencer $500 to have them tell their group of followers, 10 to 50,000 of them, how great your product is. Get that email address and start your email sequences. That is the best way, I think, now to start certain types of brands. And then I would recommend go to Amazon once a week, once a month, and search your brand name. If nothing comes up in the drop down under the search bar, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
The minute you go to Amazon, because you've done things right and you've built brand recognition in a niche or several niches, and you type in your brand name, and all of a sudden people start searching your brand name, that's when you go to Amazon. And you get on there with the brand registry, and you defend your brand name terms. If nothing else, play defense there, so that when people are seeing you elsewhere and they're going to Amazon and buying because it's so convenient, at least you're capturing that sale. And so that's the first part of your question, Chris.
Yeah.
The second part is, if you're already on Amazon or you're in a category where it makes sense to launch, maybe sporting goods and some of these others, would, household goods, where it makes perfect sense to be launching on Amazon. Part of your private label strategy must be SKU pipeline. One product's not enough. It's too dangerous, Chris. I mean, if they know you'll get it back up quickly, right? But if they don't know Chris,
Well, you could get
and they can't get
attacked.
their stuff back live again, they're done.
Yeah.
And so adding a pipeline within your brand family, look, there's two different thoughts of this SKU pipeline.
It's a contingency plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but it's also a
what
growth
you
plan.
need.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
also
a growth plan. That's the
Yeah.
genius of it. It's both.
Yeah.
Which,
So there are those sellers out there that would cherry pick the best sellers and across multiple categories, call it a brand. That's not a brand. And there's people that have been wildly successful doing that. My opinion is, find your niche and build out all of those subcategories with your own great looking premium products. And then have a go from 1 SKU to 3 to 12 to 24 to 36. You get 24 to 36 really premium products doing really well on Amazon. You get that business to 7 figures and then sell it. Start the next one.
well,
That's the game now, right?
people are going to, because they understand that Amazon's eventually going to develop brands that compete across all categories, right?
Yep.
Not just, what is Amazon best at now? Like electronics, cables, batteries, right? That's just, they have what, 561 brands?
Supplements.
They have like 500, that was an old number. I'm sure now it's like 600, 700 brands.
Yeah.
How many of them are like kicking butt in all those categories? Not that many.
Chris, I got asked that question. Before our call, I was on a GeekWire podcast, and they asked this question, and they said, well, they copied your stuff, Jason. Why would I, as a seller, go on there and sell on Amazon?
Yeah.
Because they're so freaking big that there's room for 12 brands on the first page of search results, right?
Yeah.
And I always say this to clients: there's 150 million Prime subscribers. My clients' products are never going to sell to that bottom 50 million on the lower income bracket. Those are the folks that only buy on price. Let China have those 50 million Prime subscribers. The Prime subscribers that I want to market your products to are the top 50 million of that 150 million. Because those are people like my wife who will never buy the lowest price item on Amazon because she doesn't trust it, right? And because she's got disposable income to buy it. That's the game. That's the private label game. If you're going to create your own private label and you're going to try to beat China, ain't going to work, because you're in for a world of hurt. But if you do this premium and you start to build better products, the better mousetrap, and go after that top 50 million, that's where happiness happens on Amazon, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the influencer stuff, because this is a big question for Rick in terms of off Amazon marketing. This is a controversial subject because you can't incentivize people to leave you positive reviews on Amazon, but you need positive product reviews to show up in the search, to have a sales rank at all, and to be searchable, right? But maybe that's the answer. The influencer gets a fee for their service, but the individual buyers don't, right? Because you can't give away product or rebates. That's all been discovered by Amazon. Amazon knows that results in 5-star reviews. They start deleting them. They suspend the account, So what is the way out of that? You can't just blow money on influencers and not care how they get word out that your product is great, because that has consequences. On the other hand, off Amazon marketing has to exist, and you have to make the most of it.
Yeah.
So
Jason,
I know that's a loaded question, but
Jason, how do you get, for your clients, how do you tell them to get reviews?
I'm old fashioned.
Yeah.
I think the best way to get reviews is to do like you did, Rick. Get your testimonials, find out what's wrong with your product and fix it. and then sell more of it and sell a lot more of it, and you will get reviews naturally. When we take a new launch, first we sign them up. All of our clients have their own trademark. So we get them brand registered. We sign them up for ERP, early reviewer program, $60. That'll get you 5 reviews. If you're lucky, you'll get 6 sometimes. And then I sign them up for Vine. And I say, be prepared before you launch to give away 30 of your products to Amazon's reviewer network. That gets you 35 reviews out of the gate.
Jason, what is Vine costing these days?
Free.
It's free right now. It used to be $2,500 a product.
Free?
Yeah. For a brand registered brand
Yeah, I
on
remember.
Seller Central, it
Wow.
is free. Knock on wood. I mean, they'll raise the price. They'll charge 500 tomorrow. Now that I said it out loud, but
well, they're incentivizing people to stop cheating.
yeah, right.
Reviews.
Yeah, and we don't need to go down the rabbit hole of Amazon won't let me give away my product for a review, but you'll let me give it away to your shoppers. Well, we're not going to go down that route.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to get
never gonna make
35.
sense.
Well, and it does make sense, actually.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense because
Sure.
the Vine voices are trusted reviewers. They have proven that they will leave honest reviews, supposedly. And incentivized reviews were fine until 2016. October 2016 was ReviewGate. That's when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long time ago now.
The number one
Do all you
critical
have your own
comment
Amazon
for
store?
Vine,
Oh, sorry.
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say the number one critical review for Vine is that the free product that they got too much or cost too much. So
Really? I
yeah.
didn't know this.
I got it for
So
free,
Cost
but
too much.
Really?
So all the Vine reviewers, the one thing they always complain about on their reviews is that the product costs too much, regardless of what the product is.
And they paid nothing.
And they paid nothing.
That's the irony.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
I have not seen that Vine review yet, but the magic number for us has always been you get to 20 and then you're fine, right? You've got your social proof. Now, if someone's comparing your product on the search results page and you've got 20, 35 reviews and the next person's got 10,000, I don't know. I don't know how you all feel, but I no longer trust 10,000 reviews. I immediately think this
Over 6
yes.
years.
Something sniffed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't pass
I
the
mean-
sniff test.
Well,
So
and
I mean, look,
that's the problem too, though, is that the reviews are weighted in terms of most recent. So you can have 20, 5-star reviews from 3 years ago, but if you've got 2 1-stars from last week, it really, really messes up everything
yeah.
because of the way it's weighted. And now there are ratings and reviews, and they're not really weighted differently yet, right? But who knows when they will be, because now there's the request a review thing and people can just leave a star rating and not have to actually write a review. So
Yeah.
That's
know-
a terrible idea, not to be able to leave any kind of comments at all, because I don't go by stars. I read what the folks say. And if I don't like what they say, I don't buy. I don't care if they're all 5 stars, because I find that there's many times it's not relevant, the star count versus what they actually say. So I always read the reviews before I buy anything. That's me.
That's smart.
The one thing that the reason why Amazon did this, and I agree with you, Bob, the reason why Amazon did this is look how many more reviews everyone's getting now. They're getting how many more stars. The count number is going up. And what's really bad is when you just launch a product and your first review is like a 1-star and no one said anything about it. And then you're like dead. You're like dead in the water for weeks until you
and they took away the ability to know who left that 1-star. And it's Amazon's own review mechanism request, the request a review button, that allows you to just leave a rating and not actually write a review or seller feedback. So
Well, they were afraid you were going to go to that 1-star person and induce them to improve it or delete it, right? You were going to try to create a workaround to get to that person.
But in the good old days, they would have had to write why they left 1-star, and they would have had to write a certain amount of words in there. And then you would at least know if there was something wrong with your product, or if it was like somebody's fake product that snuck into your listing or something like that. Now you don't know anything.
Yeah, 1-star reviews are a complete injustice against the seller, because to me, a 1-star review is essentially a piece of junk. It's ready for the trash bin. At least as a minimum, if it's halfway usable, it should get a 2 or maybe 3. But to me, a 1-star review is in the junk. It goes in the trash. You were deceived, whatever. That they give out way too many 1-star reviews. You see it on Yelp all the time. It's really unfair to small local sellers who are impacted by this because there's no calibration standard on this 5-star review system. There is no cal standard for it, and there never will be because they can't be.
Well, Bob, I'd like to be a little devil's advocate here. Remember Rick's story. Remember how Rick got the right marketing messaging for the George Foreman grill, asking real people who bought the product what they thought about it, and taking objective information from people who use their real money to buy the product to tell them what was wrong with it. Rick would take them to the brand. I'd read those 1-star reviews and I would say thank you every time I got one, so long as they told me why they didn't like it. And sometimes I'd take a look at that review and go, that's bullshit, right? That's BS. That never really happened. Other times I would take that, and that was my product development. That was my R&D. And there's no better R&D in the world than real unbiased information from somebody who paid their own money for a product. So when you get those and they do leave a review, it sucks that they don't all the time. But when you do get a review, take a look, take a hard look, grip the mirror, take a look at your product and see if there's anything you can do to prevent the next review like that one. And then you've got something special.
On that note, it makes it difficult that you can't communicate with customers as well anymore because sometimes you need to do some digging. You need to find out what went wrong in the process or with the product. You know, like, okay, this product is great, but you're in a humid climate and I didn't realize that this product doesn't operate in a humid climate. So like you need to have those variables to troubleshoot what somebody's issue is to fix it for the future. And without that, the less, the more walls Amazon puts up and allows that communication barrier between the customer and the brand, the less people can troubleshoot things.
Gwen, I completely agree. And I think there's no reason why Amazon can't put policies around how to do that. And we used to do a hack to connect a bad review to an order, and it just doesn't work anymore. And when we did, we would reach out to the shopper and say, we are really sorry you had a bad experience. We want to make this better for you. Can we send you a new product? Is there something, can we give you a refund? Is there anything that we can do? And then whenever we did solve this person's problem, of course, they were ecstatic. We would go back to them and say, we're really glad that we were able to resolve your issue. Would you mind going and updating your review to reflect your most recent experience with our product? Sometimes they would do it, sometimes they wouldn't. And that seems reasonable. That seems like something policies can be built around, but Amazon's just not interested.
No, well, the problem is that policy was sort of there and people abused the ever-living crap out of it.
Yeah. Well, look, but Liz, now they have so many tools. I mean, they'll sniff out anything that you put in a message. If they would allow you to do it through internal Amazon messaging, and they can sniff out the code words to reject you and cut off your ability to do that, then I think they can clean it up just like they do with everything else.
Well, and I think that I have faith and hope that it's going in that direction. I hope, mostly hope, not so much faith. But I mean, there are bots crawling around in buyer seller messaging, right? And they're flagging words like positive, and they're flagging words like negative, and they're flagging words like
.com,
family owned. Like I'm gonna starve to death, and my children are gonna be shoeless if you don't leave me a 5-star review on Amazon. And people put ridiculous things in.
I know where you live.
So Amazon did the crackdown, and then now they're able to really be smart about identifying bad actors, and they've gotten really good at dinging people who are doing absolutely nothing wrong for maybe having a word that out of context is absolutely fine, but they're not taking context into account. Once Amazon can take context into account in buyer seller messaging, then maybe things might change.
This is the machine learning conversation.
And it's not there yet, unfortunately. And that's why they introduced the request a review button, because they were trying to say, look, we do care. We do care that you get reviews. Look, we made this for you. And it's translated to your native language. And by the way, we're not going to tell you this now, but we're going to take out the ability to put an image of the product in buyer seller messaging messages. But this one will have a picture of your product and it will have stars people can click. And it not only will let them click it for the product, but for your seller feedback too. So don't worry about your ODR, because that's going to be good too. And we made this for you here. here, we made this. And then like I worked for Ecom Engine, and Feedback 5 is a tool that helps you automate your requests to help improve your seller reputation. And I worked for them for a long time. And
We had a whole meetup on this.
we did. And
Liz,
Amazon.
Liz came up here, right?
I
As
did.
a guest. She
I
flew
did.
up from Virginia for just this topic to
I
meet
did.
with our meetup members.
I
Yes.
did. Well, and they are still keeping up with the rules and all that stuff. And that's the only tool that I recommend for that. But Amazon was all like, hey, we made this, so you should put this in your tool. You know, I mean, and they were all excited about, okay, look, this, they didn't say, okay, this solves the problem, but it was sort of like, hey, this solves it. Here's this thing we made you. You know, but it doesn't come close to solving the pain point of the fact that you cannot have a successful product on Amazon. It doesn't make any sense to put any advertising dollars behind a product on Amazon if you don't have enough positive reviews. So
yeah, you know, there's another underlying story here, Liz. You're spot on, and you know this better than anybody because of your experience at Ecom Engine. But reviews is a massive embarrassment for Amazon. It's one of those things that gets in the press, and they do not like seeing negative stories about their review systems. And then there's another thing here in the United States. Fake reviews are illegal.
Yeah.
You can actually be fined by a federal agency if you buy or pay for a fake review. And so I
and yet
know
the platform is rife with fake reviews.
Well, I mean, the
completely.
FTC started investigating this in 2018. I mean, the upshot of that open to debate.
And I still talk to sellers. I talked to one this week. I talked to a brand this week that said a competing brand came online. They're from whatever country they were from. They automatically, within a day, had 1,000 5-star reviews.
Mhm.
How did they do that? And I'm like, they cheated.
Yeah,
That's like such an easy fix, right? Liz, if they had the wherewithal, that's so easy to fix, right? For Amazon, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
You take a look. If you sell 100 products, if you're requesting reviews, you're probably going to get 4 or 5 reviews. If you get 100 out of 100, that should be a red flag, Amazon.
Why
Take
don't they
that
do anything
listing
about
down.
it?
Well, any rate that's too
Great
high.
question.
They say they are identifying clusters of data that are meaningful and suspicious and deleting reviews. The problem is they do it sometimes, but there'll be another time where you'll say these are obviously fake. There's hundreds of reviews from 2 weeks of selling or 3 weeks of selling.
And they're all on the same day, and they all use the same phrase in them and yada, yada. But if they don't violate, they don't violate community guidelines, and it depends on who you run into and support too. And if you're a seller reporting another seller, you better have some pretty good proof, because there have been people reporting other people from the bad actor camp, you know. So really what it is that Amazon doesn't know quite what to do yet. And
Chris, you know, some of the, sorry to cut you off, Liz. Go ahead.
that's
Sorry.
okay, Jason.
I'm sorry. I did it again.
I would go on all night. So just
I know.
go ahead,
I feel you.
This is one of Liz's favorite topics.
Yeah.
Well, she's spot on. I don't think there's a better expert and to talk about, especially this topic. But this is one of those things. This discussion has been really helpful for me, Liz, because Chris and I sometimes will talk to certain government organizations, and I feel like this is something where the FTC needs to come down hard on Amazon. They need to, find their guts to really come at Amazon hard and clean up this mess, because it's obvious what's happening, and it's a frustration. And the best part, it's illegal.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to talk about that more, Chris.
I feel like
wrote that down.
you guys, I can't, but I think you guys really need to. And I think that Amazon needs to do a better job of internally educating to say, look, if you get, because there's no handbook, right, that says these are the things to look for, and here are the nuances involved with this science of reviews. And depending on who you get, they might say this doesn't violate community guidelines. You might get somebody who's like, darn it, that's wrong. We're going to take care of that right now. That's very rare. But it's totally inconsistent. And there needs to be like more standard internal education among the people and the machine learning and what people look for. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I think they could figure it out if they wanted. I mean, there's so much data available that there's definitely metric when you post a new product or a product. And like Jason said, or if you have 100 sales, there's always a percentage of how many people are going to leave a review. And as soon as somebody's way outside of that range, that should get flagged automatically. But there's no benefit necessarily to Amazon right now to do that unless that there is outside pressure from the FTC to monitor that. And then
they have the resources. There's no
Yeah,
one.
they
There's no
do.
way $1 trillion data company could argue that they don't have the resources.
You know, it's funny though,
I
because I
mean-
had somebody tell me that there's no way they can track up votes and down votes, helpful votes and non-helpful votes for reviews. They can't, because I was just talking to a client the other day and I said, okay, this review looks suspicious because it has 100 helpful votes. It's a 1-star review.
Yeah.
And so it's bumped up to the top of the list. And none of your other reviews have helpful or unhelpful votes. Like this one has been targeted. And he said, yeah, I talked to Amazon about that. And they said, there's no way they can find out where those
Their
helpfuls
tools
came
don't.
from.
You can't delete like a false upvote. Their tools aren't built for. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Well, and
but-
surely somewhere in their system, they have to know who clicked on that.
yeah. Yeah.
I think
But
that's a BS answer
I-
from Amazon. They
I
got the
mean-
data. It's, if nothing else, it's in the HTML code, right?
Yeah.
It's in the CSS. It's there. They just have to have
Just
the
too much.
willingness to grab it, you know?
And they
Isn't
just,
feedback a double standard though too? If someone is doing a feedback for a product they bought from Amazon FBA, basically it's just a feedback on the product itself, because I believe Amazon will delete any feedback that's related to a bad delivery experience and anything on the Amazon side.
well,
But
so
if it's FBM, if it's delivered by the merchant, suddenly now it becomes a feedback that's based around a combination of merchant performance and the product itself.
well, seller feedback also includes, so seller feedback and product reviews are obviously two different things, but seller feedback for FBA would also include, did the item arrive as described? And if you had any contact with the seller, was it a good experience? So that's also part of the seller feedback equation. Not just, and if somebody leaves a feedback on the product in the feedback area, it will get struck, you can get it removed, or Amazon might just go ahead and remove it too, because a product review is not seller feedback. So, but your seller feedback has to be at a certain rate too, otherwise it impacts your order defect rate. So
Maybe I misunderstand. And feedback is based. Feedback is essentially a rating of the seller themselves as opposed to the product.
seller feedback is a rating of the seller themselves, and a product review or a customer review is on the product itself.
Feedback on the product, essentially. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I get the review thing where that's a review of the product itself, but
Mhm.
feedback, how can it be fair then if feedback is solely about the seller and Amazon is a part of that equation when it's FBA?
It's not.
If it's FBA and
Lopsided, it's
arrive,
lopsided.
it doesn't count against.
It's totally lopsided.
It's because, Bob, it's Amazon's world and we're just guests in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jody,
True.
Jody,
Yes.
what do you have?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I just was going to ask, sort of off tangent, but I was dying to know if anyone has any workaround with brand registry. I had a brand. I've been trying to register my brand, and they keep wanting a picture of my product with the brand on it, and
Mhm.
on the box it's on it. On the innards does not have it, and they keep sending it back saying we can't accept that. Anyone have any workaround or anything with brand registry?
Well, I can jump in there. I can tell you we've launched 4 new clients since the first of the year, and every one of them has been approved for brand registry, and none of the brand registries have been connected to their actual Seller Central account.
Yeah.
And we've had to go through 3 phases to get them connected.
Like, what do you
Gazillions
mean
of-
3 phases? Like just
Well,
keep
Escalations
drilling them and
and
drilling them.
tickets and yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and then
pushing
we'll
people to
finally
fix it.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
keep
hell.
pushing, keep reopening tickets and
It's
opening
hell.
new tickets. It's total hell. Yeah, it's a known issue. It's a known issue. I think that they migrated brand registry onto a new platform after the first of the year, and
For them.
they're working on it. Yeah, for them.
Mhm.
Not we haven't seen it. We just see we just see the the aftermath in the wake. But yeah, so then they'll say, oh, it's now connected to the Seller Central. I'm like, well, we don't see the brand dashboard. And they're like, oh, we need to connect the node now.
Yeah.
So there's literally 3 steps, and it's really frustrating that they're not connected with each other.
It seems like it's between brand registry, Seller Central, and Amazon advertising. So there's like a little trifecta, and those 3 things aren't talking to each other.
And they move stores into the advertising platform, and I think that's part of this whole mess too.
Yeah.
So just you're just saying, just keep opening tickets and keep whining and keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
That's the
there's
Amazon
a certain
way.
way you can describe it, but it takes about 21 days to connect it. Like, so once you open that ticket and you have the right message, it takes.
You're absolutely right, Gwen.
3 weeks.
You need the right
I've got
message.
Yeah, it takes about 21 days, and you can't
Yeah,
let
you
up.
have to find the right lingo. Like, I've actually saved it because when I finally got it from somebody, I took it and saved it into like a glossary.
Feel free to share it with the meetup group. I mean, if you're
That'd be
if you
great.
want to
That'd be
Yeah.
post it,
That'd be
but
awesome.
Yeah,
no, I mean,
remove
even
one
in the
more
wider
headache for
group, I can
Jody.
do it later. Yeah.
I have a
But-
question for Rick
Sure.
that's kind of off topic, but I don't want to talk about reviews anymore. And hopefully,
It's too
We're
frustrating.
turning the
That
page
was,
on the review.
that was a big conversation that was started by Chris's question.
it's always
Well, the
always a huge
influencer, I
conversation.
do at some point want to be able to
Well,
answer.
that's my question for Rick is
Yeah.
that when you're talking about doing some sort of influencer campaign or influencer marketing for your product, everybody's an influencer now, right?
Yes,
I mean, like
yes.
you go on Instagram, you've got people that have got 16,000 followers, but they do a pretty good job. They're pretty engaged. Like, how do you actually find influencers that are good?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's the $100,000 question, because we're working on that with a couple different brands that I'm working on, and it's I can't honestly tell you that I've figured out a system yet that's 100%.
I'm gonna send you
correct.
guys the link. I'm
Yeah.
sending you guys a link.
What is it? Jake?
There's a company called Like to Know It. Now these are more female centric, but I'm gonna put it in here. And
In the chat.
yeah, LikeToKnowIt.com. If you scroll to the bottom of that website, that's their front end. This rewardstyle.com is a great way to connect with influencers who are in this space. And it's like you said, Liz, they got 10,000, they got 50,000 followers. You give them free products, some of them on the lower scale, you give them a few $100s on the higher scale, and it will drive business to your website. Forget about Amazon, your website. You can also drive them to Amazon if you want, but again, like to Chris's point, you got to be really careful about, having them giving away product in exchange for reviews, because it leaves you open to it. But I think it's safer than some of these Facebook.
Or trusting an influencer to say, hey, you should leave them a review on Amazon, because they might say, hey, leave them a positive review on Amazon, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're quickly in trouble.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
One thing, because I get asked all the weird questions, so like my central focus hasn't always been advertising. So, but I have a lot of industry experience. And so anybody that has a weird question that comes to me. And what I've been telling people lately about influencer marketing is like, have a discussion with Norm Farrar, because like he's doing that right now, but also look at who's who's advertising and Instagramming and TikToking your competitors.
Yeah.
And don't look for the Kim Kardashians of the world. Look for those like 16,000 to 50,000 followers that are, evangelizing your product, and look at who their connections are. And you can do it manually. There are services that can do it too. But I kind of think that if I had a brand, I would definitely want to choose an influencer who was sort of like on brand for me, Like, I don't want just somebody with a whole bunch of followers who's going to be like, I got paid to show you this today. I want somebody who's going to be like, wow, this is really great. And they're going to, I would want to kind of make friends with them, if that makes any sense,
Rick, I think there's some translations. I mean, Rick was the greatest at finding talent for all the television commercials.
Billy Mays.
Well, I think Liz, what you're saying is you'd rather have somebody that really is interested in the product and there's an authenticity there as opposed to a paid endorsement, which I couldn't agree with you more. And and even if they have a much smaller amount of followers, you'll usually get a better response from that type of person. And it's exactly what you said, is looking through Instagram and finding one influencer that matches your brand or that you'd want to be associated with, and reaching out and developing a relationship, as opposed to the higher level ones you have to pay a lot of money for.
And it feels like advertising, right? And you're already paying for advertising.
Right.
So if this is going to be out of the box and something different, shouldn't it be something that's more authentic, that feels better, that actually helps you build brand loyalty? Because advertising doesn't always do that.
Right.
No, Rick, you're the video guy. I haven't heard you say anything about YouTube yet.
Let's talk about YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube advertising.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, of all the social platforms right now, YouTube ads are doing better than any of the other ones, is the feedback that I'm getting from the different clients that are using it. And it's, if you're interested, I have a guy, actually, Jason and I were just on his podcast, that he has an agency that specializes in placing YouTube ads and does a really good job. But that's one where
Jason, link.
You can get a good
I don't remember who it was, Rick.
it was Brett. Remember Brett from I'll put the information on there.
Seller X?
No, it was like the e-commerce. I'll go back and find it, and I'll put it up.
E-commerce Evolution.
Yeah, that's the name of the podcast, but I have to get the name of his agency real quick.
Yeah,
I can do it, Rick. Don't worry, keep talking.
Yeah, no, it's that's one where if you're going to spend ad dollars, I don't know if you guys know, my background is always in direct response, so I'm always looking to get advertising that pays for itself or is a profit center, and and looking in the areas where you can do that. And right now, to answer your question, that YouTube is a great place for that right now.
And they have great data talking about when they drop off, where they stop. There's just great metrics about
how many seconds in.
Yeah, exactly. That gives you really good information on how to tweak and edit.
Well, and since everybody is so video centric, nobody wants to read anymore, which as a writer at heart breaks mine. But everybody wants to watch a video about it. So one of the your biggest things that you can do, I mean, YouTube's the biggest search engine right now. So it's the hottest search engine. Yeah. So if you've got the right keywords in your description too with your YouTube videos, then that's huge currency for your brand. Yeah. Rick, I want to ask you about Amazon Lives. Have people been asking you how to do those?
Yeah, they have. And to be honest with you, Liz, and I haven't found anybody, we have a good friend, Bernie Thompson, that owns Pluggable, and they do a lot of Amazon Lives, and other people that I know, and Jason has some clients that are utilizing it too. And when that first came out, I was all excited about it because I was thinking, wow, this is going to be like a home shopping network or QVC. But the problem is getting an audience for the Amazon Live. It's there's another area where I feel like Amazon could do a much better job in putting those presentations in front of people.
Well, it's like they built it and now they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good technology. Typical. They have the ability to provide an audience, and they're not doing it. So people are doing these Amazon Lives and not really getting a lot out of it, to be honest with you.
What's funny though, a little bit of is that I did a webinar with Rachel Johnson Greer from Cascadia, and she's kind of doing that for her clients, but she actually said, do it just like Billy Mays. And you made him. So basically she's saying use the Rick method,
What Nathan was talking about earlier, the platform's different, but what works works. And if you want to know how to sell your product, watch QVC or watch the Home Shopping Network and watch what their hosts do. And that's what you should be doing on Amazon Live, and because you are trying to sell a product. And a lot of people are afraid to sell, but that's people respond to it.
Yeah, but you invented it.
I mean,
How cool is that?
Hasn't Amazon clued into the idea that they kind of need a YouTube for like video?
Well, and that's supposed to be it, isn't it?
You know, Liz and Chris, Rick and I talk about this all the time. You've got live streaming. You've got live streaming. Why the hell isn't it on Prime Video?
Yeah.
Put the channel on Prime Video so people can sit on their couch and watch it and click on their Roku or their Apple TV device and have it delivered tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they just haven't done it.
People would like
That's
that.
the answer to my question right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already a proven model.
Would people other than us actually watch the Amazon Live like product demo channel? Why do people watch QVC and Home Shopping Network
and YouTube?
I don't do that.
So the answer to that, yes, they would.
You and I don't, Liz, but there is a big cohort that does.
Yes.
Oh, I know. I have a brand right now that's killing it on QVC. I mean, killing it. I'm
really?
like, really? QVC? And do people still do that?
Or could they come up with like the Amazon version of Shark Tank? Something similar.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to do that.
We should just all do that. Let's all just do that. And we'll just pitch it to Amazon.
It doesn't have to be an identical. Yeah. I'm not saying copy it, but an Amazon spin on it. I'm a successful brand.
Chris, you be the mean one, and Jason will be the really instructive one, and Rick will be the super nice one.
I would be the one who would say, well, what are you going to do when somebody attacks your brand? And they've got buyers buying from you saying it's fake or it's unsafe.
And I just have a big gong, and every time you talk, I just hit the gong.
Yep.
I think we just created a treatment here.
Yeah, I could even have like a storm cloud that I carry around. Like anytime anyone gets excited about their brand and how hot it's going to sell on Amazon, I'll just like pull a cord and a storm cloud will come out and start talking about brand abuse and fake reviews.
It's like in Young Frankenstein, where every time they talked about Frau Farfusina and the horses would neigh. That's what'll happen with you.
You can be Frau Blucher.
Oh yeah, it was Frau Blucher.
For those of us who know these old Mel Brooks movies, like Young Frankenstein,
it's my favorite.
But I
Mel
mean,
Brooks movie.
Maybe that's worth talking about just for a few. Like Jason, do you have this frank conversation with people? Like, by the way, there's a seamy underbelly of the Amazon Marketplace experience as a seller, and you might hear about Amazon being kind of nasty sometimes, but it's also just people trying to take you out and knock you down and using unsavory tactics.
Yeah, that conversation, I find it exhausting, Chris. And in your new podcast, which is great, by the way, you pointed out something that's
solutions.
that's at the core issue of this, which is the inconsistency in Amazon policy and enforcement. And so I will talk to a client and say, no, don't buy reviews, but this guy's doing it. Yeah, I know that guy's doing it, but eventually Amazon's going to do something about that guy. And you don't want to be that guy or gal who gets taken down. And it's like, it's a really hard, difficult conversation. Or the client will call and say, these guys, like Liz was saying, these guys just launched, they're a competitor. How do they have 5,000 reviews? I'm looking on Keepa. They just launched. How do they have so many reviews right now? And they've been up for a month. And I'm like, well, they're cheating. And they're like, well, why aren't we cheating? Because I want, and I'm like, because.
So they say that a lot.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's, I get where they're coming from.
Oh, sure.
I have good news
I
for
empathize with them.
I have a good 1 or 2 sentence answer that you can use.
Please, anything.
If it happens a lot. Because and I'm going through this now with somebody, when you do some of these nasty, bad black hat tricks yourself, you lose the right to complain. You can't report them to Amazon, and maybe you'll never catch up to them. If it's black hat versus black hat and they're better than you, you're not going to win anyway.
Yeah.
The only way that you might win, you can certainly legitimately report terrible behavior. But you can't report it if when they shine the light on you, they find the same thing that you're complaining about.
Yeah, that's a good one. Those who
Yeah,
live
not
in
two
glass
lines,
houses should
but-
not throw stones, cannot
Yeah.
throw stones.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's essentially what it is. That's
Yeah.
essentially what it is. And when you say like, well, we hired this company, we didn't really know what they were doing for us. They kind of gave us a spiel that they were going to help us. It's like,
Not
the
to keep
buck stops
complaining
with
though,
you.
Chris, like the next step here is, I mean, there was a time when we used to report abuse all the time and we would get somewhere with it and now we don't.
Mhm.
And so maybe we should talk offline and figure
I
out where I
mean, there
need to
are
better, I
good
need to report
ways.
this.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
are good
but I'm
ways
not,
and bad ways, but
yeah.
no, I don't mean bad
Thank
ways.
you. Jody
Yeah.
had to go.
Jody,
Okay,
thank you for
cool.
joining us. I'm
Oh,
glad
thank you,
we're
Jody.
recording as
So,
well.
I
in the
gotta,
future.
I gotta wrap up in 10 minutes myself. I got another call
Okay.
at the
Well,
bottom of the
I
hour.
posted that Brett Curry from OMG Commerce. And he just spoke at an Amazon conference out in LA, Jason. What was the name of that seller something?
Yeah, I had never heard of the show.
Oh,
But
Akrumi, the growth summit? Was it that?
No,
It was
that
seller, it was
that
seller called
virtual.
Seller something, and he was one of the
Oh.
speakers there.
yeah,
I was the lone girl at that.
Were you?
virtual
you went?
summit.
Okay.
No,
cool.
no. The Akrumi
Oh.
one. I was the
Oh,
token female. About the why shouldn't I cheat? I just have a very brief story. It's like a 3-sentence story about I was in the 4th grade and I was at a skating rink for a birthday party and there was one of those mechanical claw machines and we all put so many quarters in to get the toy and it was teetering on the edge. It was ours. So we took turns sticking our arm up in the thing to try to grab it off the side and I was the one that got my arm stuck. If you try to cheat with Amazon, you're going to be the one that gets your
you're
arm
the one
stuck.
you're exactly right.
Right.
I mean, like when I was a seller, we used to try everything. I've tried everything. And because they're doing it, that doesn't work. I'm going to do a behavior that's against TOS because somebody else is doing it is a surefire way to get suspended.
Yeah.
I can tell you from real
And then
world
you have
experience.
to pay Chris all this money.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
so
know.
expensive. Yeah.
So hard to deal with and unpleasant. I'm just kidding.
I'm not friendly. I have no sense of humor.
I
We
would
love
say on the
Chris.
other end, it'd be really nice, kind of going through the thread through all these conversations would be really nice for Amazon to internally have a trust meter with each seller, like over time you
They
could
do.
build. They do.
They do, but it's not consistent, and it's just going to take them 2 or 3 more years to make progress in some of the areas we've talked about tonight.
Well,
I
maybe new leadership will make a difference.
I mean, a new CEO is coming this year. I have heard recently, this is kind of an insider tidbit, the prevention of review abuse or just abuse prevention teams are supposedly tripling their head count soon, like this quarter or next quarter. This is something I
So
heard.
don't be a cowboy or cowgirl or cowperson about
Because
reviews.
like Jason said, like he and I are constantly interviewed by
Oh, cow people.
reporters doing these national media stories on review abuse. I think we're finally getting the point where consumers are catching on. I've said this before and I've been wrong, but maybe this year they're catching on. They understand that there's potentially unsafe stuff out there that they don't want to buy because of positive reviews.
But this
Yeah.
is some good
You
news
know?
that's not review related. And this
Yes.
is something that I'm seeing and that I have a lot of hope about. And that is that I think the consumer world is far more aware of third-party brands selling on Amazon than they ever have been before. And like
Yeah.
some of the work that I'm doing at Takeometrics is to highlight these emerging brands and small, medium-sized brands and say, like, this is the story. Instead of going and searching for your search term and
Mhm.
sorting by prime and sorting by reviews, go and type in this brand name. Have
Mhm.
some brand loyalty, because especially since COVID started and you want to support small businesses and all that kind of stuff, I think the consumer world is primed for more attention to third-party brands and more attention to the struggles that they face, right? So
Couldn't agree more. I had this potential client call just yesterday with a guy who has no brand, and he's got a sizable business, $15 million a year, and without a brand. He's in this parts business, right?
Okay.
And I said, you're sitting, he goes, well, we didn't have any help and we got to 15 million. I said, you're sitting on a melting block of ice unless you build your brand, because all of the factories, the same factories that you buy your products from, are selling to Amazon at their invitation. And if you don't put this moat around your business and build up a brand, you are toast. And your 15 million is going to keep shrinking until eventually it's tiny. So I couldn't agree with you more, Liz.
And that's our job, right? I mean, like
Yep.
Chris, Jason, me, Rick, that's our job.
We have to see around
Yeah.
the curve.
Liz,
Yeah.
you should feature a different brand every week and send it, a small brand, send it out to your mailing list and just to create
It's so much
awareness.
harder than that though, because I'm trying to like make video with these people. So I'd actually love to talk to you about that.
Okay.
But yeah, well, I would love to, but you've got to get their permission and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that in our customer newsletter, why wouldn't we like, hey, here's the brand we love this week,
Yeah.
you know?
exactly. Yeah.
And I think if more e-commerce focused businesses did that, then, you know, and put it out on social, put some money behind it on social.
Mhm.
Be like, hey, have you heard about these guys and their amazing story? I'm working with a grapeseed oil brand right now, and their story is amazing. They're awesome people. I love them. You know, I want everybody to know about them. I use their grapeseed oil now.
We
I'm
use
doing so much
grapeseed oil
healthier.
for cooking. Yeah.
You know, your proof of that too, Liz, is $100 billion in revenue went through Shopify, mom and pops, right? Over the last year, and Amazon just bought Cells so that they can do the same thing. I think they recognize what you intuitively know, and that these brand stories are an absolute critical component. And we talk about that in the book, right, Rick? We talk about the story. We talk about our story, and we talk about how important it is for each brand to find their truth in an authentic way, tell their real story, and it resonates with consumers. And it doesn't just build a sale, it builds long-term loyalty to the brand.
Trust. Yeah.
Do you mean this
kind of like
book?
that My Pillow guy?
I think he's referring to this book. So you have to go, right? Thank you for joining us, Jason. Yeah.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
So
really
many
appreciate
good
it.
words of wisdom. I mean, any last questions for Jason before I don't know if Rick, if you can stay with us a little bit longer, but
No, I have to jump off.
you have to
too.
go to the same
I
call
think-
that Jason's
I
going
think
to.
that's probably a nice organic end. So everybody,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming. We're going to try to do this every month. I'm just, you know, Chris is a slave driver. So
We used to
But-
do them every month in the seaport. We're going to keep doing virtual ones until we can
well,
meet
I'm
again.
not doing it in person. I don't want to do Yotel again, but there has to be a robot. So you're going to have to figure that out.
Oh, the robot.
We need our own robot.
If we can't do it in Tychometrics offices because you guys aren't there, we will find somewhere else to do it.
Well, Chris, you should enjoy Liz while you can, because I know she's going to get picked up by a network at some point. There's a lot of talent there.
Yeah.
Get as many of these sessions with her as you can.
And
Jason makes me blush every time I
she's
talk to him.
obviously
It's
got a
ridiculous.
book. She's obviously got a book that she needs to do on everything she was talking about tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep,
We should talk
definitely.
about that too, Liz.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Next
so
time.
I'm going to schedule some time with you, Rick.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody. Have a great
Be
night.
safe, everybody. Take
Thanks,
it easy.
everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.